I was doing some
Let's
world building
Talk
earlier
Lore,
today,
a podcast.
and this is just before we get into our topics. Let me just go ahead and just throw up the random tangent alert.
Starting off with a tangent.
I was telling you about how there's a stratosphere, there's the mesosphere, whatever, and then the exosphere. There's 4 or 5 of them, like when you go from the ground to the space.
Yeah, to space.
So I'm like, okay, we're sailing, we're in the Sky Kingdom. Like, how can I build more to my world? And I just did a whole bunch of research. I am now like so much more educated just on that stuff because of D&D. It's absolutely crazy. And then add into the equation that the world's flat. Like, how does that affect the stratosphere? And the answer is, who knows?
Hey.
It was funny. One of the flat world things was like, gravity it might be stronger in the middle than it is, and then things might actually be leaning
out on the sides. Interesting.
Yeah, so I was just, felt like sharing that with you.
Your deep rabbit hole of atmospheric knowledge.
All right, let's get into it. What was the topic for this Let's Talk Lore to start
The
off?
topic I wanted to discuss with Spencer is something that we both have been taking part in as early as a couple days ago, is branching outside of that long-term campaign that you're playing to maybe do a one-shot or join another campaign to mix it up a little. We are playing in a game with Adam, who plays Turgan. He is DMing and took a Maddox world and modified it himself and added a bunch of homebrew stuff that he liked to it, and is creating this different world that we're playing in. That same system or style of game that we're playing can affect just ways that are your thoughts on it, and how we could take insights that we learned from playing in different games into the campaign that we're playing.
Well, that's a good topic. Good. Okay, so my head is like, I'm trying to pick up like all these random games I've played.
Well,
and it's not just D&D games, right? It's like other games. So to start off, like, I absolutely loved when you took over the DMing. That was awesome. And just from a different perspective, when you're DMing like me, like forever DM, and you get a break and you start playing, just seeing how you DM and how people respond to what you do, good, bad, boring, not boring, gives you a little bit more. It allows you to see, just like anything else. It's like practice. Sometimes a form of practice is watching and observing. You can't observe a dungeon master unless you join us or another live stream. You don't really ever get to see that unless you pay for the tickets at these places or whatever.
Just watching it is different. It's a different feel than playing in the game as a DM.
Oh yeah. So there's that. Then you add on Adam, who has decided to do like this one-shot campaign type thing. Like mine is Fantasy World, so think like Lord of the Rings. His is Mad Max. Period.
Post-apocalyptic with modern.
Right. I like built my guy, and I was like, all right, he's gonna be a fighter. I haven't played with a ranged guy, so I was like a fighter who's gonna sit back instead of like storm up and like kill everyone. He's gonna add support and fight from afar. So I was like, all right, arrows and bows and all this stuff. And it turns out when we started playing, he was like, all right, go get your weapons. Like all these weapons. I got like a
free range of the armory.
Yeah, I have now, instead of being like a in the back shooter, I'm now sitting there with like, I'm like essentially Terminator 2 and I'm like up there with the big gun shooting all the police cars and stuff. And so to go back to what you're saying, it's like you have different settings. How does that DM incorporate that homebrew? I think it's doing a good job so far. I mean, it's insane. Like, I do all homebrew stuff too, but it's like, you're
homebrewing for the generic fantasy world.
Yeah,
it's a different style of homebrew that you need for a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Yeah, and to sort of tee off into it, I feel like, Shadowrun is very similar to it's a lot more detailed than than D&D.
Right.
To me, I played it with my brother when I was real young, and we probably didn't play it correctly, but it was all in your head, and it was all it was so much detail. My God, you're not just getting guns; you're like changing your arm, you're upgrading. It's insane. Very fun if you have time for it and patience for it. But like playing games like that, I would imagine, maybe Adam might want to, or maybe Adam might want to, just take a glance at those games, or at the rule book or such. But to go with that with other games, Warhammer. I love Warhammer. I wish I had time to play it. All I had time to do was just paint models and stuff. But like the tactics in the way you do the battles, or the scenarios. Like my brother had a book, and we would play it, and he had a book of like battles, like famous battles that happened in the series, and depending on who wins, you go to page 22.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's all set up, and the battles are all set up differently. Like D&D can be, you go here, boom, 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 boom. You go here, boom, boom, and you do the similar things, and it can get somewhat boring. But when I did that one game of Warhammer, and Warhammer is very tedious, it's very long, it takes like an hour to do a turn. He had set up the models, and the specific scenarios said, okay, my guys don't know you're there. Your goal is to go in quietly and try to steal this thing. And then once you steal it, then then you fight it out. And you have to survive 6 turns for the evac ship. So I took that, and I literally brought it into our Dungeons and Dragons campaign when we did the zombie, actually the second episode of our 3 years ago.
Well, I think that's a great way of bringing large battles into a game that's typically focused on small things.
Yeah. So like if you're bogged down with a big to-do, big battle, or I'm having issues right now with like the ship. It's so hard for me to manage the ship in an interesting way. Traveling on a ship is supposed to be a little bit more involved than riding on a camel or walking. So maybe I go back and look at some of those mechanics. It's the mechanics, really, but
I love the idea of looking at these other games and seeing what their heart and their core is, and trying to bring some of that into your campaign. It's just all of this inspiration, just like music and movies and everything else. But I think the challenge is what you're talking about, finding the mechanics to make it work. And because they're bringing another idea of a game into one that's not really designed for it. And that's always hard. But I think a lot of it is understanding the theme or the idea or the concept that you're trying to bring in. And the mechanics are the rules. The rules are just like laws. They're there to help bring us boundaries when we need them. If we're doing stuff in the middle and it doesn't really matter, we're having fun at so what. But if we need some guardrails to help guide us down the path because we're just floundering, that's where the rules are very helpful. Like for the skyship with the fuel, I think it's a simple. There's a crystal. We have to get it. We don't know where it is or how to get it or any of the complexities. If it needs to be complex, it can be. It can be as complex or as simple as we need it to be to facilitate it easily.
Yeah, I mean, just as a general rule of thumb, I would say that if the game is getting slowed down, taking a break and changing it up a little bit, letting someone come in with fresh air. But I also learned a lot from it. So that helps you, like, how did you get, this Let's Talk Lore podcast is all about immersion and tips for immersion, players in Dungeon Master. I'm going to learn so much from this Adam
absolutely.
Mad Max thing. It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
Like what to do, what not to do, what worked, what didn't work. I like to do the visuals with the tabletop simulator. I like you guys to have your own models that you built. You own the piece. We don't do a lot of Mind's Eye. We do Mind's Eye, but not a lot.
The theater of mind.
Adam is all theater of mind. And he'll give you photos. Love the photo thing.
Oh, I thought it was really great. I'm having a hard time explaining it. Here's a photo for you to get the feel of it, it worked. It worked perfectly. For what we're doing.
I knew it was Mad Max, but like once I saw the image of like the town that we were in, like how desolate and like. I mean, it was a huge city, but like
the wasteland around it.
God, I was like, okay, so I guess we're not traveling.
Be a little harsher in the desert than we thought.
But like you play all
Yeah.
different types of campaigns, one shot or
Well,
multiple
yeah.
shots, I guess. What?
Well, what's your
Yeah.
question?
What have you been able to like? Because I only play in this one that we do, and what are you able to see like certain things that like worked in them and wish that you
Right.
as a player
Yeah.
would have that happen here, or like as you're DMing, like how does that?
Hmm. So, a metaphor for work, I teach yoga, and one of the things that I talk with
Yeah.
other teachers and friends, it's like going to another class, taking a class from another teacher is a great way for me to understand the phrasing I'm using, the sequences I'm doing, the postures I'm doing, my own how I'm moving, a way to put myself in the student's place and understand their view of a class or how it moves. And it's the same thing. I found it's the same thing with playing with a bunch of different dungeon masters. There's a West March game I play with, and the way it's set up, there are, I think, 10 or 12 different DMs on the server. Not all of them DM at the same time, but whoever is able to DM, they'll play a game. So I've played with 8 or 9 different DMs on that server, and they're all different feels, different styles, different focuses in the play. Some more combat, some more role play, some more music or the feel, the descriptions, and a lot of inspiration that I've got for the way I DM is from them and from you and from my local group. 6 of us, and we cycle DMs. Right now we're finishing the first half. Last night we finished the first half of Descent into Avernus, and we're taking a break, and another player is going to start up Storm King's Thunder, and then we'll come back to Descent to Avernus probably in a year and a half or so whenever we get to it and finish that up. It's a way of forcing this break so DMs don't get the burnout.
Yeah,
We're not playing one single campaign for a year and a half and you get bogged down on all the minutia of your character and you're only locked into that world. The nice thing with switching it up, you get to play different characters, you get to DM, you get to see all the different styles, and seeing all the different players get the feel of a DM and then come back to a player and see how they play differently after DMing.
Oh yeah.
Like there's one guy at the table who's DMing Storm King's Thunder. It's the first adventure that he's DMing for like this rotation that we're doing. And I'm really interested to see how he comes back to a player after DMing. Because there's a lot of times when he gets frustrated after failing certain things. And as a DM, you fail all the time.
Oh my god. Well, it depends on what the word fail. Like, what do you
like the idea of you're going into combat
so
your characters will die. You're purposely sacrificing them for the progression of the story. And I think sometimes as a player, it's hard to like, I'm trying to do all these cool things as a player, and the dice just don't want me to do it, and it sucks. We all have been there where all you're rolling is anything less than 7 all night.
Well, being fluid is key. But
it's the idea of rolling with the bad rolls of like,
yes,
even though it's a shitty roll, still having fun with it. So I'm excited to see how whenever he rolls bad and starts to get down, I always try and lighten it up because that's just who I am. I make jokes all the time.
So like the DM rolls terribly?
Well, the DM rolls terribly and I'm going to be excited.
Yeah.
But I'm just interested to see how his play might change after DMing, because it's always going to change after you step into that DM seat. Every time you do it, you're going to learn more and interact with the players and understand them a little bit better.
Well, that's
especially if it's that same group.
Right. And we will do another problem player episode, which is different. Like, how do you,
yeah.
A lot of times, and I've read like, for a problem player, like, what do you do? Like, hey, I want you to play this way. Well, that guy plays that way in every game. Like, I know the guys I play with.
Right.
I've played other video games with them. They're the same way. So it's like when you swap the DM role or you put them on put them in the light, make their moves matter, their decisions matter. It helps, like, especially if I were to take Matt, and I always bring Matt into it because he's the crazy one, and I love the chaos that he brings to my DMing.
I feel like I've let you down because I've been trying to bring chaos into the campaign.
Well, the dice gods have been, not
against that goal.
But it's like, the player's only going to really understand how horrible it is when they purposefully like disrupt the stuff by sitting in that seat and doing a session. So instead of like dismissing him, why don't you say, well, okay, you know what? Next session we're going to do a one session thing, and you're going to DM it.
It's the idea of not trying to fuck with them.
Right.
It's like being the fun player, and it's letting the other thing see it from the DM side.
Right.
Of like understand. Oh yeah, it does kind of suck when a player's trying to force all of this really weird stuff into a situation that doesn't need it.
Right. And I think that, like, again, being fluid, my parents have always taught when change happens, it's very important to be like fluid, able to. I'm not the best at it when it comes to like easy things, but when big changes happen, you got to be able to just like go with the flow. To bring it back to DMing, I plan this whole thing out, and like you guys decide, screw it, let's kill this guy, or like, you know what, that's not interesting, let's go somewhere else. Well, you know what, you guys are ultimate, and when you guys do that and decide to go somewhere else, and I've just spent like the week doing this, it's not your fault.
Sometimes it is.
But
yes.
like, the players are very much in control of the game, if not,
a
lot of times more so than the actual Dungeon Master. All the Dungeon Master is sometimes, to me, is you're the stage.
Well,
and
it's
the characters are the actors. So
it wasn't the Dungeon Master back in the day. It was the referee originally. So it's the Dungeon Master there is just to help the player's story.
Yes, and it's hilarious because like if you go somewhere and do something and you witness something happen like that, whether you're a player or you're a DM, and you just go with the flow, that's such a good lesson to learn, the first time I did in life, but also in DMing. So like, we'll see what happens with Adams, next time. I tried to do that. I didn't know. I thought we were going to go on the thing, and I was trying to like investigate this like magical thing, and he wouldn't let me through it. And I had known that like this is session 0, I'm not going to push the envelope, so I was like, all right, I'll back off and not ruin the plot that you've spent like 4 weeks putting this thing together. But
I understand where he was coming from.
Yeah.
Of like, here is the hard boundary, no matter how much you want to get through it.
But it's like he did it, but it was done in a way where it was like not wanting me to press harder.
Yeah.
Like when you had DM'd once and you were like, and I wanted to go up and like rough up the bartender, I think, because I was
Sir Richard's Carnival.
Yeah, I had done a perception check, I scored low, and I saw this big guy talking, and I thought he was talking shit. And so I went over to confront him, and like instead of like derailing the whole game, you sort of had it. You were like, he puts his hand on you, and it's the heaviest hand you've ever felt, and like he is very, very strong. And you were trying to like warn me, but I was like, well, my guy is a barbarian, and I'd like to do that. From that experience, when Adam did that to me, I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna derail here.
Understand the mechanic being used.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to see what different games, whether it's another Dungeons and Dragons campaign, a different setting, or your Shadowrun, or your Warhammer, or Gloomhaven and Frosthaven.
Yep.
There are tons of mechanics that you can just take and homebrew. It's just taking the mechanics that like really add value to it, and it's just to your gameplay and to the group's gameplay. And for a DM to like the whole DMing, just taking the Zelda Lost Forest idea of a wrong turn brings you back to the beginning was awesome. I was happy that worked out.
Well, it's as a DM, you want for me as a DM, I want first thing everyone to have fun. Second one, the story to run smoothly. And the third, if I can throw some novel, unique, cool thing in that no one's ever done before, I want to do that. Just because it makes it different and doesn't feel repetitive. And that's what all those little cool homebrew mechanics do, is it brings that randomness, that uniqueness to the world instead of the same old, same old.
Yeah, and I think that's a good lesson for everyone, players too. It's not just the DM. What do you think, before we move on, what do you think are other games that have influenced you in DMing or playing? For me, I had those, and we share similar.
I think for me, it's Final Fantasy has a big impact on the way I view the world.
Final Fantasy?
Yeah, I think I view the world as you have your city pockets or your towns or your areas where things happen, and then everything in the middle is just unknown.
Right.
It's like I'm going from this cool place to that cool place. Shit might happen in the middle. I have some tables that I might roll, but who knows what happens there.
Yes.
And that's the way it felt like in every Final Fantasy game. I was like, I'm going from here to there.
Yeah. One, Final Fantasy is huge. I love that too. That was like a big, not a huge influence, but definitely an influence, because I was just playing the remake of Final Fantasy VII with Cloud. I asked you a long time ago.
Found my CDs for the DVDs for PS2 Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so like when we went to Trigard, it's like, it's so funny because like we just come out from the Underdark, where you have like, it's like crystal fields and mushrooms and like indigenous tribes and all this crap, and then you walk into like
the most technologically evolved city.
Yeah, everyone has guns, you know, and it's really cool. Obviously Zelda. I would say obviously Zelda, but I would say also Magic cards. Now they're owned by Wizards of the Coast, but they weren't before, I don't think.
But Wizards bought TSR or whatever it was. They were separate before they're together.
Just flipping through books and watching movies and playing Magic cards has made it visually mind's eye enhanced for me. So like when you say, I don't have a model for zombie walls, and that's a homebrew, and I'm trying to describe it to you, hands coming out of the walls, eyeballs, people like just looking at you. I have the visual from the Magic card of the black, zombie wall. Like 05 and 05 0 attack, 5 defense wall.
Everything just helps fill the background of that mental image that you're trying to project. So it just gives you more inspiration to draw from, which is always great, always useful.
And I had someone ask for a topic.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'll bring it back to our game the game we're playing with Adam. In that game, the race I chose and the subclass I chose are all homebrew ones that I made specific for that world. One other thing that I'm starting to do, especially with this, is just dive in to that world specific stuff and just fully immerse yourself in that and see how these unique stuff that Adam's creating for this world might change how I view playing every other subclass, or the way I see the character's race affecting how they play. Because there's this uniqueness to them. It's not just like, oh, I picked the race for stats or for abilities or because it works with my class and all these other features. It's like I picked this because it was specific to the story and I thought it sounded cool, and the subclass that ties to it. And really just encouraging diving fully into the homebrew uniqueness of the campaign, of the world. And I encourage everyone if whoever happens to be listening, if a DM gives you a bunch of homebrew stuff for their specific campaign, take it. If it's going to be broken, it's going to be fun, it doesn't really matter. It's just going to make it more, allow you to dive deeper into their story.
His homebrew weapons thing of reloading is going to break things.
Yes.
Because his monsters aren't going to be reloading. The monsters are not reloading. The guys with guns will reload, making it even and slow. But the monster, you're having a dragon essentially come at you that we're going after, and it's going to be attacking you. You're going to waste half a turn reloading?
Get the gunner feat. And then you don't have to...
But then again, it might work because the world that you're playing is, again, it's Mad Max. Your decisions really matter there. So maybe that's the point.
That's why I chose a heavy magic user.
That's why I got a turtle. so I can go in my
Yeah.
shell. Peace.
Out.
Yeah. I was gonna have you throw me over the guards so I could get
I am
to see
too,
what was
I
over.
am too weak.
Not the blue guy.
Yeah.
Blue guy. Yeah. I like your summarization there. That was good. Yeah.
Playing a different system allows you to have different stories and different memories and different themes to really pick up on. So like we had the one combat encounter in our session 0 and it turned into utter mayhem, and it's just some foreshadowing of what the rest of the campaign's going to be, and I'm so excited for it. Throwing a vial of acid and melding two people together.
Yes.
With it.
The weapons
Like-
thing is insane. Homebrew.
It's the feel that it's allowing of a lot more creativity in the play.
Mhm.
Of like, let's see what happens, and I'm gonna make up something hilarious and fun that works with it. And I think that's something I'm gonna start picking up on, or trying to incorporate more to the gameplay, is let all this crazy shit happen.
Yeah. Be
That-
fluid.
Yeah, be
Learn
fluid.
pick up things. Don't just stare at your phone and whatnot.
Molotov cocktail at the side of a
I miss.
Dungeons
side.
Talk
Yeah,
Lore.
I